Hello everyone. As always, I'm Vlad Sparastoria. I shoot and I know things about shooting. Sweden was lucky enough not to take part in the two world wars. However, Sweden's neutrality was really due to the strength of its army and to the fact that it still pursued an active policy of defending its own interests against its neighbors. Neighbors with whom it now has excellent relations, unlike in the 19th and early 20th centuries. It is precisely with the Second World War that the landscape of small arms changes drastically. The Swedes will receive from Finland an SVT-30 captured during the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union. They quickly realized that times had changed and there was a need to adopt a self-loading weapon to replace the old Carl Gustaf. This self-loading weapon will be the AG-42, also known as Ljungman. So let's explore the history of this weapon, because in particular the patent on the gas system is very important for another story that perhaps we all know. Let's go! The history of the Ljungman is a bit of a patchy story. For example, there isn't really a text that properly tells the story of this weapon's development. And its creator, Erik Eklund, is a bit of a mystery in this context. But let's try to piece together the puzzle as much as possible. The official designation of the weapon is Gewehr M42 automatic rifle M42. And not as Ljungman, but this Ljungman is not the inventor of the weapon. Jakob Ljungman, in the 1920s, opened a company in Malmö, Sweden, which produced metal parts and a range of equipment for oil and gasoline pumps, gasoline containers, and so on. In 1936, the management of the company would pass to his son-in-law, the husband of Ljungman's daughter, Erik Eklund, a talented engineer who would patent many components in the world of pumps and gasoline, and especially for gas stations. The Swedish army, when World War II began, which we should remember Sweden did not participate in but watched anxiously, was equipped with the good old Carl Gustaf bolt-action rifles based on the Mauser 93 action. We have seen in the past the various versions of the Carl Gustaf, including the latest one, the M38, which was in service at that time. However, World War II would see extensive use by both sides, the Axis and the Allies, of self-loading rifles. Various experiments with self-loading rifles had actually been going on for decades, but it was only during World War II that we would truly see this type of weapon widely used and adopted. I'm telling you this story because the G42 is clearly influenced by two different designs. We don't know exactly how or why. This is the mystery from the story I mentioned at the beginning, but for those who study firearms and analyze them closely, these two influences are absolutely evident. The first influence is that of the Soviet SVT-38. The SVT-38 later became the SVT-40, a weapon we've recently seen on the channel, a rifle that was supposed to replace the Mosin Nagant in service with the Red Army. When in 1939 the Soviet Union invaded Finland, the Finns captured a large quantity of weapons and armaments from the Soviet Union. And some of these weapons would be purchased by various nations, including Sweden, to be studied. It was precisely the SVT-38 that convinced the Swedish High Command of the need for them to also arm themselves with a self-loading weapon. They attempted to convert the Mausers at Carl Gustaf. However, as history clearly teaches us, there haven't been many successful designs that converted a bolt action into a self-loading weapon. A radically different design was needed, one that started from scratch, and this is where Erik Eklund comes into play. It's quite strange to think that this person had never designed firearms before, nor would he design firearms afterward. In 1 year, which is actually a record time for designing a weapon, he managed to design a rifle, put it into production, and win a competition held by the Swedish army. 1 year for this type of weapon is really very little. While it clearly takes inspiration from the SWT-38 for its ergonomics, operation, and locking system, the gas system was radically different. The G42 actually uses a direct impingement gas system, which was very rare at the time. Direct impingement has its origins in France. Around the late 1800s, by the late 19th century, the French were already very involved. They were experimenting with a series of self-loading rifle designs. Rossignols rifles, at the turn of the century, between the late 1800s and the early 1900s, used what we call direct impingement, a system in which the gas travels along a long tube directly to the bolt carrier, which, when pushed back, will complete the weapon's cycle. The French, much further ahead, would develop this idea with the MAS-38 and the later MAS-40 weapons that were intended for frontline use. However, their production would start very slowly before being interrupted by the German invasion. Erich Eklund seems to take quite a bit of the design for his gas system from the Rossignol rifle and the MAS-38, and this is quite evident. However, unfortunately, there are no documents or adequate explanations available to the general public, or at least none have been published so far. From the union of these two designs, the AG-42 would finally emerge. The AG-42 would not see combat. However, many of these rifles would have problems, as they were not perfect. Therefore, from 1953 to 1956, they would be modified and improved to become the AG-42B. The last part of the AG-42's story is just as interesting. Again, there isn't a very clear direct connection, but it's a fairly obvious link to anyone interested in firearms. Eugene Stoner of the AR-10 and the AR-15. In fact, in his patent describing his gas system, often known as the Stoner system, he clearly states that his system is an improvement on direct impingement systems. And it's very interesting from this point of view, because it takes the entire front part of the gas system all the way to the bolt carrier port. Then the bolt carrier port itself is quite different. In the AR-15 and therefore in the M16, as we well know, it's almost identical to that of the Ljungman. And there are many sources that mention the gas system of the R10 and the R15 as a direct improvement of that of the AG-42. To understand a little better what we're talking about, let's move the camera and take a closer look at how it's made. Then, of course, we'll take it out to shoot. So let's take a look at this wonderful AG-42B, also known as Ljungman. So, as you can see, it's a fairly long weapon, just as we would expect from a battle rifle of that era. Let's start our tour, as always, with the markings. First of all, as you can see, we have a serial number along with the year of production and the emblem of the Swedish king. As you can see, actually nowhere does it say that this is an AG-42. There is no model designation for the weapon. So, already here you're seeing a lot of very strange things. Let's start from the beginning, because even the beginning, the muzzle itself, is very interesting. On the muzzle, as you can see, we first have the weapon's front sight mounted on this extension attached to the barrel, which is drilled. It's probably not a compensator attached to the barrel, but rather the barrel itself is drilled to help with compensation. In fact, we'll see during the live fire test that this weapon has a very pleasant recoil and very little muzzle rise. Under the barrel, we also have a cleaning rod, which for obvious reasons can be removed and used to clean the weapon. Moving further back, we first find the gas block. Here there's a small hole with a tube that goes all the way to the bolt carrier. In this model, it can't be adjusted in any way. There's simply the tube and that's it. However, I have to say that when firing this weapon, as you'll see, it's really well regulated. Then there's a band, obviously for attaching the sling. Going back, there's a full-length handguard to grip the weapon, especially when it gets hot, and we start to find a lot of strange and interesting things. The first really strange thing is the rear sight. In fact, we have an adjustable rear sight using this wheel. You can see how it goes up and down. From this other side, we can see it a bit better. The markings are in this window. In fact, we have the adjustment for battle distance. 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 meters. This sight goes up to a maximum of 700 meters. Very unique, really complicated. It's very strange. Then we have a lot of other things, because this is actually the weapon's bolt carrier. And then we have what we would call a dust cover, a part to cover the weapon, which is also the charging handle. Not only that. On this other side, it also acts as a kind of washer, I don't know what else to call it, made of rubber. It's used to deflect the shell casings. This is a very hard rubber. Maybe when it was first made it was a bit softer, but you know that rubber loses its flexibility over time. We also have a large clip guide. The guide is cut like this as well, so that we can see the sights. These two extensions that look like little horns are used to manipulate this dust cover, which also serves as the charging handle. Very peculiar. Now let's see how it works. One last thing. Here we have an element that is the weapon safety. Here it's in the safe position. Here it's in the fire position, which is also used for disassembly. One last detail about the stock. We have this element that actually marks a series of maintenance operations. This way, you know which maintenance operations and when they need to be performed on this weapon. The magazine is really quite unique because this magazine is removable, but only one was issued with the risk of losing it. That's why it's secured in two ways. It's rare to find magazines where you have to press both at the back and at the front to remove it. This, by the way, is a modification introduced with Model B because the first model didn't have such a complicated magazine. And by the way, in another later version of this weapon that we'll see later, small spoiler, this goes back to being much simpler. But by pushing back and pressing this tab forward, we can remove the magazine. As you can see here, there's the tab, let's call it the original one, but there's also this springy tab added on the magazine itself. Probably one of the most complicated magazines in terms of how it attaches that I've ever seen, but again, this has to stay inside. This shouldn't be removed. During the live fire test, we'll remove it. You'll see this, but the military use is to load it using stripper clips. So you have one magazine and that's enough. By moving the dust cover forward, we connect it to the bolt carrier. As you can see, the bolt carrier is forward at this moment. We make the connection. We can also see the hammer right now. We pull it back, and when we reach the end of the stroke, the bolt carrier closes. Now the bolt slams shut with tremendous force. Honestly, this gun is really dangerous for your fingers. If it was the Garand that scared you with its clip and its bolt and many people got hurt getting the so-called Garand thumb, the Ljungman is a guillotine. It's much worse. There are stories of people who got seriously hurt, so be very careful when handling it. I'll show you again. You can pull it back and it immediately closes forward. How do we lock it open? You can also use the safety as a hold open. In fact, if we engage the safety, we can do this operation. But as you can see, the bolt will stay open. Let's start disassembly and see how it works. But first, let's notice something very interesting. Go back. Stay back. Good. We see the barrel of the weapon and we see the gas port. Nothing is moving here at this moment. In fact, this is the tube. It's the same tube that starts from the hole in the barrel. The gas tube that will blow the gases into this small opening in the bolt carrier, an opening that, as you can see, doesn't lead anywhere. Literally, this extension matches with this, creating a sort of small piston, in a way venting the gases directly here onto the bolt carrier. In this space, it forces it to move backward. Let's also look at the face of the bolt and the ejector of the weapon. It's really interesting as you can see how it works. Now let's disengage the safety and move the bolt forward. The way it slams forward is extremely violent. I can't stress this enough. Now to disassemble it, first let's make sure the hammer is cocked because that helps us a lot. Let's move it forward a bit. I don't even know what to call it. The dust cover, the charging handle, this part. But let's move forward a bit. Let's put the safety about halfway, which removes the whole safety block. This way we can guide this part, specifically this guide with the recoil spring. Bolt carrier, here they are. Let's review these components with another look at the disassembled weapon. See these long guides? That's the weapon's hammer. Simply, obviously, it works only in a semi-automatic way, so we pull the trigger. When the weapon recoils, the hammer catches. Do I have to release the trigger? To reactivate the disconnector system, it's very simple. Our cover bar loading mechanism is all this part here. As you can see, here there's a hook that being able to move goes to catch the bolt carrier itself. That's why when the bolt carrier is forward, we need to move the handle forward so it will hook in place with this tab. So this slides underneath it. Without the bolt, I'll show you. We move it forward and here it will hook onto the bolt carrier. In this way, the two pieces are joined together. However, when you press on this element, the bolt carrier disengages. This element, as you can see, can be pressed inward, and specifically it impacts this part, which is part of the safety. As you can see, if I rotate it, the safety moves in or out, depending on whether the safety is deactivated. When I pull back the top cover, the charging handle, I press this tab, which will release the bolt carrier, whereas, as you can see, I have engaged the safety to leave it locked open. They reach the end of their travel, but not enough, as you can see, to release it. As you can see, I'm pulling the bolt carrier forward, top cover. But this tab hasn't been pressed because here the shape of the safety changes. As you can see, there's an empty space. When I go to deactivate it, I can move the bolt carrier forward. This is what makes it snap forward. All of this is moved by the recoil spring with this odd double spring guide that is actually two springs, a very strong central spring and this outer spring. Very simple. And here you can clearly see the influence of the SVT. I repeat, as I told you, the Swedes received an SVT-38 from the Finns in particular. And so this part of the bolt is heavily based on that bolt design and bolt carrier. The bolt is a simple tilting bolt. Let's look at the bolt carrier for a moment. If we reassemble the bolt for a moment, we can appreciate how it tilts. Here it is. This is the unlocked position. When the bolt carrier finishes its forward movement, it will push it down. Here we have the only locking lug, and you can see this tilting motion. You just need to lock and unlock it. The locking surface inside the weapon is this one. As you can see, despite the unusual operation, it's actually very simple. As for the rifle, you know what? We can reassemble it right now. Let's put the bolt carrier with the bolt itself onto the weapon. Here we go. By pressing in a bit, the hammer helps move the assembly forward, bolt carrier and bolt and the recoil spring. Now let's put the top cover here on the other spring guide. But let's move a bit forward and into the intermediate position, more or less. Here we are. We can put this part back. Here we go. Let's see if it works. Bizarre, unusual, but beautiful. Let's go try it. And here we are once again back at the Sear shooting range in Spessa, where we're finally trying out this amazing AG-42B. The Ljungman is really unique. As we've seen, it has a rather unusual handling, and today we'll try not to get our fingers pinched. The magazine is already loaded. Let's grab the bolt carrier, pull it back. We've already chambered around. Let's go. And as you can see, we're out of rounds now, so first impressions. It's surprisingly easy to handle. It's a bit heavy, but extremely well balanced, I'll tell you. The sights are nice, very visible. They remind me a bit in some ways of those on the Carl Gustaf, but the latest Carl Gustaf, the M38. The rest we've seen on the channel. I would say it handles this ammunition very well. I don't know how much the ported barrel, the compensator as we call it, actually helps with this. The trigger is heavy, but that's what I expect from a military weapon. The Ljungman is one of those semi-automatics that, not having seen war, is a bit forgotten. It wasn't made in very large numbers, but in some ways it's definitely a very competitive design compared to those other popular ones from that era. I'm thinking of the Garand or the SVT that we've seen recently. Obviously, in my opinion, the big flaw that makes it quite strange is how you handle the weapon. Now that the magazine is empty, it doesn't close. Now, I don't want to chop my hand off, so to reload, we can remove the magazine. As we've seen, the magazine is very complicated, so you don't lose it. Let's load it. Let's try again. Look at how it shakes. Do you know you're doing something stupid? Do you know you're not supposed to do that? I'm doing it for science. For science, you die a hero. You win by hoping, you know. Thank you, Mr. Assistant 2. It's still hard to do with the clip. Thank you. Oh, it doesn't move a damn centimeter. From the point of view of recoil, between the gas system, the weight of the weapon, well, the fact that direct impingement systems don't have those moving parts, moving masses, and that compensator, guys, it doesn't move off the target. It has less recoil than an SKS. You know what it reminds me of? The FAL, when the FAL is properly tuned. It's damn sweet. I was surprised by the SVT, but this is even better. Damn, the Swedes made a beautiful weapon. Stick the magazine in. With the cap? No, straight, 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 straight. Take the tabs. Go ahead. These ones? Yes. No, the ones in the back. The ones in the back. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Back, back, done. Is that enough? Yes. Forward to the center against the opposing extremisms. Okay.
Ok. Era un po' piccola. Il letto bellissimo. Bellissimo. Potrebbe essere utile.
They arrived not later. It didn't go into hold open. Sometimes it stays, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how you insert the magazine. Good. How do you pull it back? Pull it back, forward. Move forward and check for hold open, then move back. It doesn't go into hold open. It happens. Here we are with another clip. As always, I don't load it by putting my hands there. I also prefer not to do it without the clip because the closing of this bolt is really scary. I mean, if the garand hurts, this one will cut your hand. It's really terrible from this point of view, and I like my hands. They're very nice. I need them. So let's insert the magazine straight in and load it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, why won't you go into hold open? What are we doing wrong? It's not locking open. Ah, no big deal. Let's remove the magazine. We'll put it in our pocket. Okay. What can I say? The handling of this weapon is strange. I mean, I can't think of any other weapons except for those that come directly from this one. Spoiler. That operate in this way. As a battle rifle, as a semi-automatic from the 1940s, I actually found it very interesting. It's not the Garand, which definitely remains the superior weapon of those years when it comes to full-power self-loading rifles. But I'll tell you, it's not bad at all. I definitely liked it more than the SVT. No doubt about it. And of course, for us firearms enthusiasts, the impact this system has had on the history of firearms. This gas system is extremely important because, as we said, Eugene Stoner directly referenced it, and his Stoner system is in fact an improvement on it. In short, a bizarre rifle, but we like bizarre things. Thank you all for watching this video. As always, you are the ones who make these videos. You, like the owner of this weapon, who came here today to Campo Sierdi specifically to let me try it. If you have interesting weapons, don't hesitate to write to me. I'm recording this video on the verge of reaching 100,000 subscribers. Now, numbers are not my goal. I make these videos because, first of all, I have a lot of fun shooting and trying out many different weapons. But I won't deny that this job as a YouTuber, which is reflected in the numbers, well, it's fun. I like it. And the numbers help a lot. They simply help to get more visibility, more views, which helps with keeping the costs down. Coming here to this field to shoot these videos, if you want to support the channel in this way, consider subscribing as well. Leave a like, a comment. If you want to support the channel even further, you can always become a member to get access to exclusive content. Or you can also buy the t-shirts to show off, for example, at the next EOS. That's all from me. And as always, I'll see you next time.